Hi friend, most of those who listen to my stories are not subscribed to the channel. As such, please take a few seconds of your time to subscribe and also turn on your notifications so you never miss a new story. Your support is very valuable to me. Thank you so much. And now a new story.
Suddenly, a scream came from behind the wall. I'm in a lot of pain. I can't take it anymore. A pretty woman of 40 years standing at the stove literally shuddered at this moan of despair. At the same time, tears flowed from Kira's eyes. She was very worried about her husband, who was slowly dying right in front of her eyes, gradually turning into a vegetable. A few weeks ago, Arnold was a completely healthy person, and then he suddenly collapsed at a gala dinner dedicated to their wedding anniversary. That day, she tried very hard to cook delicious meals for her husband, despite being very busy at work. Her husband even laughed at her then, saying that it looks funny. His wife is a real millionaire, the owner of a large business, but she was busy in the kitchen all day instead of ordering expensive dishes in a restaurant. Kira replied, gently kissing her husband. Beloved, I'm trying for you. I don't need anything. I ate yogurt at work, especially since I know how much you love homemade food. Arnold said, temptingly playing with his pumped biceps. Yes, I really love homemade food. You are a wonderful hostess. One can only dream of such a wife. All the men envy me in the gym. The woman smiled back at him. Suddenly, her husband remembered. By the way, did you pay my parking ticket? Of course I paid for parking, for speeding, and for many other things. You got a whole bunch of fines. Arnold said capriciously, finally starting dinner, which brought his wife to tenderness. These are fines for a whole month. I don't understand what these law enforcement officers want from me. What's wrong with the fact that I exceed the speed limit a little or parked at a pedestrian crossing? It's like they're watching me on purpose. She watched with incredible care and love as the fragrant pieces of meat, with which she fumbled for half a day to cook them perfectly, disappeared after the continuous onslaught of knife and fork. Kira thanked fate for sending her such an amazing man. In addition, he was 10 years younger than her. She met him quite by accident when her friend invited her to unwind a little from the daily routine at the fitness club where Arnold then worked. At the same time, the man was not on a shift, but quite by chance agreed to replace his friend that day. He paid special attention to the female client after he saw through the window in which car she drove up. He literally didn't leave her all evening, making sure that she performed all the exercises perfectly correctly. He chatted with her about all sorts of trifles. By the end of the lesson, the trainer unexpectedly invited her to go on a date with him, and the woman could only answer with her consent. Although this man was clearly not a couple for her, because if you compare, she had everything: an excellent European education, her own business that brings her a solid income, an apartment, a car, and most importantly, the ability to fulfill any desires as if by a wave of a magic wand. And Arnold could offer her nothing but himself. The young man had nothing. He lived in a rented apartment and worked as a fitness trainer. And in his personal life, the man couldn't find the same girl. In fact, Arnold didn't really need a serious relationship, which her friend warned her about several times, because there was a good reason for that. Still, he had nothing to offer the girls except his torso, and then a gift of fate fell on him in the form of a pretty rich woman. And he didn't miss his chance, soon calling the woman to marry. Kira was insanely happy, because she couldn't dream of such a spouse. She was ready for everything for him. She fulfilled all the whims of a man, looking at him with loving eyes. Of course, not only did he move into her duplex apartment, but he also got a fancy sports car, as well as a solid bank account for pocket money. Arnold gave her affection and love in return, while avoiding the opportunity to become a father. He explained this by the fact that they need to live at least a little for themselves. Of course, this circumstance saddened the woman a little, but she still had time. 40 years is not yet a sentence, and she still hoped to become a mother. A year later, a real disaster occurred right during the gala dinner. When Arnold ate a caviar sandwich, reaching for a glass of champagne, he suddenly screamed and fell to the floor, holding his back and writhing in pain. The wife rushed to help him, fussing around her husband and not knowing how to help him. She offered to call for emergency medical assistance, where Arnold refused. He got up with difficulty and walked to the sofa with the help of Kira, on which he laid down. He told her that it must be an old spinal injury, and he promised that he would go to his personal doctor tomorrow, and he would prescribe some medicine for him, after which he would be alright. But unfortunately, it only got worse. The next day, the husband came home after an examination in a private clinic. He said that the doctors gave him the most terrible diagnosis, and he had almost no hope of a cure. Only a surgery abroad could save him, but it cost a lot of money. Kira was shocked by the amount, because she would probably have had to sell her business to pay for it. But the woman was ready to do anything for the sake of her beloved, even to become a beggar. Kira was thinking about all this now, standing at the stove, where 4 dishes were being prepared at once. She listened to Arnold moaning in the bedroom, where by this time was barely getting out of bed. Kira has already started preparing documents to sell her business, because her husband showed her an impressive bill for treatment from an Israeli clinic. Finally, breakfast for the lovely man was ready, and the woman took a tray full of delicious food, wiped away her tears, put on a fake smile, and carried the tray into the bedroom. Arnold met her with a pained expression, looking without interest at his favorite dishes. She told him, "Beloved, look what I have prepared for you. You definitely need to eat so that you have the strength to continue to fight the disease." The man yelled so loudly that he almost dropped the tray from her hands. "Oh my God, how it hurts! Give me my pills, quickly!" When Arnold took the strongest painkiller, he calmed down and ate with difficulty, as he had no appetite. He ate almost everything on the tray. After that, he whispered almost audibly, leaning back on the pillow, "Have you already completed the documents for the sale of your business? The clinic is waiting for the transfer of money. Otherwise, they may refuse to do surgery, and in a few months, I will turn into a vegetable." Kira reassured her husband, "Darling, don't worry, almost everything is ready." He groaned in response, "We must have time." Kira could no longer look at the suffering of the person closest to her, so she hurried to work in order to forget herself there until the evening, while she still had such an opportunity. Thankfully, her husband was able to take care of himself. She offered her husband to find the best doctors, but he refused, completely trusting his personal doctor, especially since his diagnosis was also confirmed by foreign doctors. But on this day, the woman couldn't concentrate on work, and after meeting with partners, she was very tired by dinner. So she decided to come home to eat, because the negotiations were taking place near her house. Of course, Kira didn't want to return to the apartment in which her husband was gradually dying, because she felt uneasy from his moans and screams. But she still decided to go home, because even thinking like that was vile, because Arnold was much worse at that time. The more the disease progressed, and suddenly he got worse, and now he needs help. Therefore, the woman drove up to the entrance and climbed the stairs to her apartment. She wanted to open it carefully so as not to suddenly wake up Arnold if he was sleeping at that time. But to her great surprise, the door was unlocked. The woman quietly entered the room and almost fainted when she heard an interesting conversation from behind the half-closed kitchen door. "I hope your old woman prepared the documents. Time doesn't wait, and you lingered here. It's good that I got out of prison in time and told you how to act. By the way, where is your thanks for the advice? Turns out you didn't tell your wife about me. Are you ashamed of your brother?" "Rick, you are my brother. Why should I be ashamed of you? Think yourself. Who will tell a rich woman that my close relative has been in prison for 10 years for fraud and robbery? She would have been scared after that and would not have married me. But fortunately, you got out of prison in time and gave me an idea. Otherwise, I would probably endure this old woman next to me all my life, who would give me pocket money like her grandson, and still demands children from me, and I don't need it at all. But you have a good idea to get a certificate through a corrupt doctor, and get an invoice for a fake company. Soon, Kira will transfer money there, and the surgery will certainly be successful. But only suddenly my feelings for her will fade away." Arnold laughed, after which the men moved on to a more delicate conversation about the charms of their many mistresses. Being in shock, the confused woman couldn't even go into the kitchen to make a grand scandal to the bastard, hitting him with the crutches on his allegedly short back. Instead, she left her apartment in tears. She went downstairs and walked along the avenue, seeing nothing in front of her because of the hail of tears pouring from her eyes. Her only thought was to end the pain that was now tearing her heart apart. Perhaps that is why her legs themselves led her to a flooded quarry nearby. She had almost reached the end of the avenue, and suddenly, the woman heard a shout. "Hello, Kira, is that you?" She turned around and saw a tall man in a business suit with a briefcase in his hands, who looked into her tear-stained eyes with genuine interest. The woman immediately recognized her former classmate Victor, with whom she has once had a fairly close relationship. The man accidentally ended up in these places, investigating a crime in a quarry. He is a police investigator for especially important cases. Unexpectedly for the man, she threw herself into his arms under the influx of feelings. She told him in tears about how vilely the one whom she loved more than her own life wanted to set her up. The investigator turned gloomy, but then a smile lit up on his face, because he figured out how to punish the swindler along with his smart brother, which he told Kira about. On the same day, a woman came home with a heavy box. She solemnly demonstrated its contents to her husband, who even whistled from what he saw, because it contained ingots of gold. After all, she sold her bank for the precious metal. explaining that it was much more profitable, and now she had to sell it at a higher price. But day after day went by, and Kira didn't succeed, as the price of the metal fell sharply on the stock exchange. Rick suggested that his brother take the gold and run away, because he had the right people who could sell the bars. Otherwise, this stupid woman will sell it cheap, who knows when. That's what they decided. However, Kira was not surprised by this, returning from the store one day. After all, she didn't find either a husband or gold. There was only a note that he had left for treatment, that he could no longer see the suffering of his wife, and if the surgery was successful, he would immediately return to her. This gold turned out to be a counterfeit, intended for special operations, which the police investigator lent to Kira. Rick decided to sell the gold through criminals he knew, and when the truth was revealed, these criminals immediately handed over the brothers to the police. In the criminal world, deceit is not allowed. The brothers went to prison for a long time. Fortunately, Kira didn't grieve for too long, because at that moment, there was a real man who showed his feelings not only in words, but also in deeds was next to her. And money didn't play any role for Victor. The man was looking for his happiness, and finally, he found it where he didn't even imagine.